So you have the cabos. So if you have a very good question or a question for the panel, you can raise your cabosses.
Cabosses.
Don't be too shy.
I don't know if I have a very good question, but
You have a very good question, Tom.
I have a remark. Just something I was thinking about. We are a company that converts the carton board. So, for example, we convert the carton board for Paperwise to make a box for Gudrun.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about labels and about communication, because I believe that's very difficult for a company like Gudrun to communicate to consumers. To get
Because we're
a big
private
group,
label,
it's
yeah.
very, very difficult. And I was thinking about the PEFC and the FSC certification. Almost all of the carton board that we use now is PEFC and FSC certified. Aldi, Lidl, they all require that certification. But my wife, she has no idea what PEFC or FSC is. My children, they don't know that. But they buy those products.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe the communication and the maybe is that legal, or is it the supermarket who decides? Maybe you know more about it, but that's the way to get that upcycling thing in the world without people even knowing about it. I think that's the best way, because with communication, you get 10 to 20%. Maybe you get a niche market a little bit too much. You get to certain people who would do that just because they think like that. But then you get in a niche market, which is, for me, a big risk, even for the carton board.
Yeah.
It's a big risk to get in a niche market.
Yeah.
So maybe the solution is with supermarkets or with governments, indeed.
For Gudrun, it's a decision we took for ourselves, but of course also the retailers are asking. But I want to give you the word, Peter, because you inspired me a lot for no FSC label. And it's not that we're going to do a turnaround immediately, but I think your story really opened my eyes, because the FSC label is linked to trees, right? And he's not working with trees, so he has no FSC label.
Nope. No, we are excluded.
And you can ask the question, what's now the best? And he said to me, you need to go for the best solution. Yeah, he's a good salesman as well, of course. Tom.
Well,
yeah. So if you want to elaborate a bit further on it, Peter?
Well, I can. Well, what I first can say is that FSC, the forest industry, has a great budget for marketing, and I can tell a small story about. We talked to WWF. You would say that's a quite nice organization that would be happy with us because they want to save trees, but they thought different, and they explained to me why. Because FSC, the forest industry, is one of their greatest financial sponsors. So WWF will always refer to trees, never to our material. In the US, there is an organization that's called Canopy. Canopy, and Canopy is working a lot on alternatives for Save Our Forest. But by the way, WWF is always saying we should save trees. Every year, there's still deforestation of like 4 million hectares or something per year. So it's still, whatever we want to do, there's still more forest that we harvest for whatever reason. But it's difficult for us to compete with FSC because there was no alternative. Now there seems to be an alternative because for 2 weeks we were in contact with H&M. I think most people know the brand H&M. The head office from Sweden approached Paperwise. How can you help? How can we help H&M to become a little bit more sustainable? So I asked them, what do you need? We need carry bags. No, we have material to do carry bags, but they need to be FSC. We don't have that. They need to be white. We don't want to make it white because for white you need to bleach paper, so that's a lot of extra chemicals. That's a lot of extra energy. So we sent some samples of the carry bags of the World Expo, and we have many more. And they said, "Oh, it's nice. It looks really good. Do you have FSC?" No, it's 100% agricultural waste, so we don't have FSC.
Yeah.
Oh, but we have regulation. It should be FSC. And then forget about it, then we cannot help you.
Then you're blocked.
But it seems that there is a new regulation in Europe that says you have to prove that you do not contribute to deforestation. And that's what we are now trying to apply for.
Maybe you need to join and Tom, go to the governments, and maybe you are winning team.
we have talked to a very big bank in the in Belgium. There is, I think, there's only one big bank in Belgium.
Yes, there is, but now you need to name the right one. I would name it if I was you right now. There is somebody in the audience working for a bank.
Oh, that's good. If it starts with a K and it ends with a C, then it's the right bank.
Bingo!
But we were there already in the beginning when we started with our paper, and they were really, really excited about using Paperwise. We put a lot of money in trials and tests, what we took from our factory. They were using 80 GSM, we were doing 75 GSM, even 70 GSM, and they were all happy, and at the end it was all about what's going to cost. Oh, that's too expensive. While banks are making most money of everybody, and still they say, we are sustainable, but not that sustainable. So they didn't buy. By the way, it's not the only bank. Rabobank in the Netherlands is the same.
You can have a chit-chat later on, maybe that works.
I will be here for an hour.
Yeah, and you like to talk, so that's not a problem. But what I do like about your story is that you don't cut trees, you leave the trees. And I think as what we are seeing now with the climate change, people are also asking we should have more trees to drop a bit again the temperature. So when I heard your story, I thought about that. The hot summers are not normal anymore, so we all need to plant more trees for that. It takes 30 years, you said, which is quite a long time. But I see Guus, he's getting excited. He wants to add something because you touch FSC label. So
no, but I want to put things in the right perspective a bit, or get back. Myself, I'm a forester. My background is a forester. So I'm a forest engineer.
You have a lot of surprises.
Yes, indeed.
You're also a chef, I heard.
Indeed, as well. FSC labels are labels that relate to sustainable forest management. So if your paper is not coming from a forest, you will never have a sustainable forest management label. But cutting the trees, and that's what I wanted to say, we're against cutting the trees, but you need to cut a tree. If you want to have a healthy forest, you need to cut your tree, and it's better to combat climate change by cutting your trees and storing the wood somewhere that the CO2 is captured. A forest where you don't cut trees will emit, in the end, more CO2. So it's best to have a young tree that's growing fast and capturing all the CO2.
It's a bit the same with cocoa trees as well, eh? Ruva, you sometimes need to cut a bit to be better.
Exactly, and there's always like an optimal age range of tree.
But it's also about the deforestation. That's probably what you're not
deforestation, at least for sure in Europe, all the deforestation or the cutting of the trees you see is done on a reliable, sustainable way. Most of the deforestation we see on a global level is for food production. It's for the production of the cattle food, of this beef we want to eat. That's the oil palm plantations. They just cut the trees and the rainforest for that purposes. So biggest deforestation has nothing to do right now with paperboard or etc. But it's our food system as well that requires a lot of land to produce the feed. And there we see the biggest challenges on deforestation are not here in Europe.
But the answer lies probably between a balance, what you say, cutting the trees in a correct way, and then also using your waste, because I don't think we can neglect the 80% of waste you have from an agriculture crop. So we probably need to do something with it.
It's a very difficult exercise. We say if we use waste, we say it's more sustainable. We've seen in research out of projects that if you use side stream, it's not always the best impact on the environment. If you look at your LCA or life cycle analysis, it might be when you're using residues, your production process and the chemicals, etc., you're using are much more harmful to the environment than the
I think you have a nice example about harming. You told me an example.
Yeah, Lego.
Lego,
Yeah, Lego started 2-3 years ago with the idea that if you use plastic bottles, empty plastic bottles, and you use that as a source for your Lego blocks, that would be better. But they stopped this, I think, a month ago. They stopped this initiative because the process of creating those Lego blocks from empty bottles, plastic bottles, was more harmful than using just normal plastic blocks. So it is indeed, it's not always better. And I think it was cool for Lego to admit this and to say, okay, we stop. And then we search for other ways how to make this. Plastic is now a problem, man. Plastic is a wonderful product. It's now great when it's in the ocean.
Correct.
The people are a problem.
Yeah. So, Tom, your question took us 10 minutes, so thank you for your great question. I just want to still have, I get some extra 5 minutes, so anyone who has another question? Dares to ask a question? Aha, he. And he's like a true artist. He's waiting for his microphone.
Thank you. Still on packaging. Is there a packaging for chocolates, according to you, Peter, which is fully biodegradable, of course recyclable? Because a specificity for chocolate is that it is sensitive to humidity, oxygen, and therefore actually in packagings there is a layer. And of course, if we want to go to 100% biodegradability,
degradable,
so what's your vision on this?
Well, first, I want to explain a little bit about biodegradability.
You need all the beer, I believe.
No, because that's you have a lot of every product is biodegradable. The challenge is always what's left over when it biodegrades, because plastic is also biodegradable. It degrades in very small parts, but lots of it, and I think what you're more into is like, is it compostable? Is it home compostable? Is it industrial compostable? And paper by itself has no barrier properties. So if you need it for chocolate, it's often in combination with a biofilm, a coating, or are two separate products. You see aluminum foil for the chocolate and then packed into paper, or a biofilm. You have the NatureFlex films, you have PLA films, but specific NatureFlex is more suitable for packing chocolates. So it's often a combination. But paper by itself has never enough barrier properties for oxygen, for moisture. So you always need something extra to add it to make it complete. Yeah, sorry.
So, no, sorry, but I think it's being open and transparent. Yep. Another question still?
Chocolate has the biggest footprint of all food products because it's in Africa, it comes by boat to Belgium, it's sold in overseas, it's with packaging that comes from China to Belgium, and we sell it all over the world. Do you think there is a future for chocolate because the footprint is so enormous? What do you think is the biggest opportunity to work on the whole chain? What could create the biggest success in the whole footprint?
And you still have 2 minutes left over the dear panel. Anyone who wants to start?
I think Ruva
is still thinking. Really? I see her processing.
The difficult questions will leave the room.
No, Peter.
I'm going to be very short.
Yeah. Okay.
Supply chain by boats, is that so much worse? I think the biggest problem on footprint is all the people driving with their car to the retail store and to buy your chocolate. But I'm not a professional in this inside.
I feel again, Guus. Yeah. He's always a bit angry on everyone. But I think it is character, basically.
Did I talk about waste?
No, it's a big opportunity, home delivery chocolate. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, there's somebody who needs to deliver.
Yeah.
Impact.
Yeah.
We don't need to go to the shop
but then
anymore.
we're using our iPhone or whatever smartphone to ask for you to deliver it. And every time I ask a question on my iPhone, it takes 10 milliliters of water to cool down all the server systems that are fucked down.
Where is your iPhone manufactured, by the way?
Yeah, by the way.
Maybe also China.
Anything? No, he just wants
This
to.
makes it very complicated, I think.
It's a really complicated story.
One
yeah.
step at a time to go to improve our value chains.
Yeah, I was going to say, and one of those steps is in upcycling, because one of the thing is that we are just using a fraction of what the fruit produces. So by using the 70% that has been wasted before, that's already one step on optimizing, you could say, what happens around chocolate. And another thing is just to get more people to eat chocolate, because you know that chocolate is eaten where in more developed countries. So if we can develop more factories closer to developing countries, that's also another way of making sure that the footprint is reduced, because then it travels less to the countries that are actually producing the cocoa. That's
But
what
I think it's a fair question of Eddie. If we just look a bit to the supply chain, you have your cocoa beans. It's growing around the equator, 10 degrees north and south. So, okay, that's a fact. It's a given. You cannot find it somewhere else. Maybe in future you will have again a granddaughter telling you what to do. But it's coming in bulk. So I think it's the most optimized way to coming by boat, and we don't do it via an airplane. That's one. Secondly, if I then look to when we make our chocolates, we really want to put as many chocolates in one box. And I agree, it's your customer who wants to show off and make it exciting with a lot of glitter and glamour, and make it big enough so that the shelf is standing out. And that's also a discussion we are having with our retailers. Can we make it smaller? Can we optimize it? And I'm sure you will see an example later on, because there is also a great opportunity. I've done a store check with one of my team members, and when you open the box, it's exciting to have a big box, but when you open it, you have to really look for your chocolates. And then I said to one of the people, imagine you can just put them all next to each other. You have half of your packaging. You halve the CO2 impact. And they looked at me. That's a fair point. And if I see what we are doing, and we're also shipping our chocolates by boat a lot, we maximize our palletization. Okay, then you have a question on ergonomics internally, but that then we will solve. But you want to maximize because, you don't want to ship air. And I also see the people from the cardboard side also saying, yes, that's exactly true, and that's what we definitely need to work upon. And that will already save a lot of CO2 and will impact our footprint, definitely. Yeah. And Tom has again a question, but I get a sign. I get now an angry face from another person. Yes. I think, do we have still time, Mike? Just one thing. I think you're taking the stage right now, Tom. It's another Tom, by the way. So
yes, another Tom. Sorry, I'm also always thinking you talk to me.
I'm talking.
I think it's a good question, but you can ask the same for coffee. So if you ask this question for chocolate, you can also ask it for coffee.
Or Argentina steak.
Or Argentina steak. And on the other hand, there are always different different things. You talk about an industry that's around the equator.
Yeah, true.
That they can do that is good for those people. So it's another point of view. But you get the chocolate there, you get a whole industry. You do it in a very good way with fair trade and all those things. So it adds also very positive points. And it's not only about transportation or everything has bad and good points, and you have to see all sides of it.
I think it's all about awareness, and that's also the reason of this event. We want to create awareness. We cannot do it alone. We need to do it all together. For me, there is no competition in this. But again, if we all tell the correct story to the consumers, and now we come back a bit on your influencer thing and about what you just said, Tom, take action and don't do some window dressing, what you just said. So I think we all have a fair share into this.